We have seen these captions on a national front. From the graphic online, we see something like community miners invade mining concessions. Join the fight against Galamsey. And then we see our president, it's like he's driving a very huge vehicle. The first oil flows from Sankofa Ginyame field. So we see that with every extractive that we have huge expectations that we are really going to have something that will benefit us. At the same time, we also have some difficulties associated with all of these. We see the Washington Post also, mining Ghana's bauxite will bring in billions from China, but it could also taint the water for 5 billion people. These are the realities that we face. These are things that really, affect us as a country. It is because of this that I want us to look at Cogent Process Engineering of Ghana's natural resources towards job creation and increased revenue generation. I've used various sources in the preparation of this presentation, and all of such sources are duly acknowledged, from internet searches, conferences, books, and articles, and my own experiences to deliver this speech. We will look at the background, extractives, value chain, and local content, the role of Cogent Process Engineering in the extractives, embedding Cogent Process Engineering in the extractives industry, and then give conclusions and some recommendations. This is a resource that has been turned into economic opportunity. This is a country, just like Ghana is a country. This is something that bothered them. When it rained, water will not stop flowing through that area. And this is what they have done with that problem. So you see, they are using it, as a means of water transportation. The problem that they have, they are making good use of it. A similar situation in Ghana. So when it happens in Ghana, this is what happens, okay? So unfortunately, some people may even die and all of that. So that is the way, things go on for us, for those of us in this part of the world. But that shouldn't be the end. We should have the vigor that we can also do what the other people are doing. Whatever they do, we can also do that. This is something that we have and nobody has. We have fire detection equipment. And if you are in your mining area, wherever, at the onset of fire, if fire should start, we could detect, give information, and then to be quenched before the fire would even. So this is at only UNER, the whole of the West African sub-region. Yeah, that is what we also have there. Now, oil is the lifeblood, and then we will say that metal is the bone of industrialized countries. Most manufacturing, construction, technologies, plastics, fertilizers, they wouldn't be possible without these materials. And if you take crude oil, for instance, we have the hydrocarbons, the non-hydrocarbons, and they consist of these very simple chemical substances. And it's out of these simple chemical substances that we are able to generate almost everything in the world. Every material that we are using, they are coming from these simple chemical substances. Now, the objective of this presentation is to provide an insight into the role of Cogent Process Engineering of Ghana's natural resources for job creation. So we look at the extractives, value chain, and local content, and wouldn't take much time here because I've realized that it has already been talked about. So we take the mining value chain, we have the upstream, downstream, we also have the side stream. Okay, so in the upstream linkages, we are looking at the supplier industries. We talk about manufacturing. We talk about the chemicals and all of that. Capital goods, equipment, machinery, they are all there. And this is also part of that value chain where you look at. So if you take your exploration, exploitation, processing, refine, everywhere you have the value chain, the things that, will come up as we go ahead. And one questioner was asking about why is it that always you are taught exploration, and not processing. And that was a key thing. Processing is a key to whatever that we do. Because without processing, then it means that we are not adding value to our resources. So processing is something that is key, for us. And if it's not part of your curriculum, I think it should be part so that you also do that. Now, when you talk about the local content, as we have already been told, we have regulations and all of that. Value addition is something that is key. Now, the diagram we see on the right-hand side there is a microbial fuel cell. And this is generating electricity from the waste of the petroleum industry. So the waste from the petroleum industry, when you are using microbial treatment to treat it, as you do that, electricity is being generated, which you can also use. So this is something that is good for us as a country, and that we can do over here in Ghana. Now, natural resources, some people will ask whether it's a curse or a blessing. Whatever it is, we have seen both sides. We've seen the curses because of the war and all of that. We've seen the blessings because of the good things they give to us. But whatever it is, the natural resources, they act as growth accelerators. Okay? So if your economy will grow, you need your natural resources. So we see here the diagram. In this figure, you see the resources being started. Okay. Now, you need your resources to really jump, what we call the natural resource jump. When you have your natural resource, it should enable you to jump. So don't just walk to some point. You will jump to that particular position. And when you are at that place, we have some enablers. In other words, you have things that would enable you to move up. So once you have jumped, you now move up, and then you keep on moving. So you reach the keep up, and then you look up. At the look up, what you are doing is that you are still progressing, and you are now looking at another set of enablers that will help you to go to the next level. And you have the exercises there, that's the number of years. So as the years, pass by, then you reach these, positions. You will start, in every situation when you are starting is difficult, but once started, you set up and you will eventually, reach there. So we need to really make sure that our natural resources become blessings, for us. Now we look at the role of CPE in the extractives industry. Now the CPE is designed to serve the extractive industry from ground up. So right from mining, okay, to the processing to our end product, whatever that we'll get. CPE is there to make sure that it gives solutions to us. From equipment design, process control, everything. We need the CPE to do that, for us. And this is a clear view with the CPE. So you have the first column, the tighter control, and this is for leadership. Okay? In the industry, you need, good leadership that will be able to ensure tighter control. Now, what you can't see, you can't control. Whatever you cannot see, you cannot control. But CPE integrates existing systems and processes to provide real-time status on the key performance indicators. So you have key performance indicators that would enable you to realize whether your aims are being achieved or not. So the leadership look at these KPIs and make sure that things are going on well. You have the safer extractive industry, and this is for employees. So we need our industry to be safe. If the industry is not safe, how do we, survive and work very well? We need that. And then also predictable performance, and this is for investors. People who want to come in, okay, and then as they come in to, put in their monies, it should be possible for them to predict whether the business they are going to do will give them the returns. And then we have 5 areas of digitization that exist for significant value creation. We are talking about job creation. You need to add value to your products. When you do that, you are able to also create a job. Now, the 5 key areas are deep understanding of the resource base. You need optimization of the materials and equipment flow. Improved anticipation of failures. That's the 3rd one. Then the 4th, increased mechanization through automation. And then monitoring of real-time performance versus plan. So these are 5 key areas that will enable us and then make sure that we are doing the right things for job creation. Another key thing that is good for us is artificial intelligence. And as we are in the extractive industry, this should not be lost on us. Artificial intelligence has come to stay, and that is what the world is now moving to. So if we cannot also be in that realm, we will be left behind. Okay? We will be left behind. And we have people who have gone into the artificial intelligence making things happen. So you have, equipment, or you have robots that will go underground and do your mining for you. So if we have our white counterparts or other races and then they are doing it, we can also do it. It is not beyond that. There are times when we haven't started things, then it's like we cannot do it. Is it not amazing that when they were doing this robotics, competition worldwide, I think, is it about 3 or 4 years ago, then we have one of our schools in Ghana here, topping Prempeh College. Prempeh was first in some years, and I think some years back also another school also came first or something. So you see that when we allowed our students to go into robotics, they are doing far, far well than their even white counterparts. So we can really make it. So artificial intelligence has come to stay in the extractive industry. So let us make use of it and make sure that we do it very well. Power to industry. Now, if there's insufficient energy to support the growing population and industrial activities in Ghana, it is because of power. Okay, if you do not have energy, if you don't have power. In fact, all the industrialized countries, they became industrialized because of cheaper energy. It's because of cheaper energy. In Ghana, we are also going to the other forms of energy, including the renewables and the nuclear energy. And with nuclear energy, I like the posture of the Chinese. The Europeans, the Americans, they are skeptical about, countries going the nuclear way. And China says that no, we will also go nuclear and then develop to the stage where you have reached, then we will stop. That is the attitude of China. When Americans are telling them to stop the nuclear power because it will pollute the environment, it will do this, it will do that. So no, you have used it to develop. We will also use it to develop. When we reach a stage, we will stop. But the good thing is that Ghana, we have also gotten the green light, and Ghana is also going nuclear. Yeah, so in the next few years, we will see nuclear power plant. And when this comes up, what it means is that we are going to have cheaper source of energy, and all industries will boom. Because the number one cost factor for industries is power. Okay, and we have, done the first stage of this nuclear, deal. The first stage is, capacity building, and GAIC, UNER, KNUST, we are training, students to be, man this nuclear power when it starts. So in the next 6 years, we are going to have our nuclear power. So this is something that is good for us as a country. When it comes, everything, our iron industry, our bauxite industry, all our processing industries, they'll be very, very cheap because the energy is cheap. But that doesn't mean that maybe the petroleum will also go down. No, they will also still be there. And petroleum would, at times, when we talk about nuclear power, renewable energy, then the petroleum engineers who also want to say that even petroleum is also renewable. They think that if they don't do that, this will be going down. No, that is not it. Because we will always need petroleum for the materials that we use. Because nuclear power cannot give us plastics. Nuclear power cannot give us so many things. We will still get all of those things from petroleum. Now, we had heard about policies, and all of that. Okay. And we always say that in Ghana, Ghana is one of the countries that has the best policies, but we don't see them working. Okay. So whenever we have these, we want to see how best we make sure that they work. So here we want to look at embedding Cogent Process Engineering in the extractive industries for job creation and increased revenue. How we embed, we make sure that it happens. Now, when we talk about job creation, the goal of all job creation strategy is to stimulate healthy economic growth. Once we stimulate healthy economic growth, there's going to be job creation. And this can be accomplished by 4 main things. One, reduction in interest rates. When interest rates are reduced, okay, so many jobs can be created. And then expenditure on public works. When government is expending on public works, like building roads, doing this, doing that, you are using people to do it. Jobs will be created. And then expenditure on unemployment benefits. When you give money to people who do not have jobs, for them to do something, they are using the monies in the economy. Just a cycle. And then the 4th one is cut taxes. When you do that, we are sure that we will have jobs that will be created. And this is a revenue flow within the oil and gas sector. So we have the Petroleum Holding Fund, and we have the resources that come into the fund. So once they are there, okay, so GMPC has it, and then we see the distribution, the places where it goes, and all of that. Now, key for embedding is culture of CPE. If you want to embed, it's about culture. Culture. Now, the CPE, the Cogent Process Engineering, in the way it's sustainable process engineering. It is, because you are looking at how resilient your process engineering will be. And sustainability, as we all know, we say is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. Now, the CPE consists of managing the quadruple bottom line. Normally we talk about triple bottom line, but there's a 4th one which is also very critical. The social, economic, environmental, and the 4th is governance. You should have good governance for you to be able to make sure that all that you want to achieve will be able to achieve that. Now, the sustainable extractive business are resilient and create economic value, healthy ecosystems, and strong communities, and an atmosphere of good governance. When you talk about culture, as we say, we should make the CPE a culture. Culture is just, the way we do things here. That is what we mean by a culture. You realize that once you have a culture, it stays. Okay, it stays. A typical example would be our brothers and sisters, friends who go abroad. There are so many things that you cannot do there. Once they are there, they don't do those things. For instance, you can't just litter around. You can't stand somewhere and then you wee-wee. You can't do that. You realize that when they come, that culture is in them. Hardly will you see them throwing rubbish around. They will not do that. Because the culture is inbuilt. So if you want process engineering to be sustainable and create jobs, we have to make it a culture. So in the extractive industry, we make sure that all the things that we are extracting from the earth crust, let's look at opportunities and see the things that we can process. We process them and then we get more money for that. We get more jobs being created. That is what we have to do. And once you do that, it becomes part of you. Once you discover another earth metal, the procedure is there, the culture is there. You continue and then you'll be doing that. So, but if the culture is not there, always you just, do things anyhow. Now, let's look at practices of embedding Cogent Process Engineering. How do we embed it? We said that we need to embed. In other words, let it happen in the industry. Now, the practices, they vary on two main dimensions relating to intent. And then the second one is approach. Okay? So, intent and approach. Intent, that is, what is the industry trying to accomplish? What is the intent? Okay? When you talk about intent, we have two different goals that are targeted. Fulfillment and then innovation. Okay? So, this fulfillment and innovation, we let that be. Is this x-axis or y-axis? Y-axis. That is the y. Okay, very good. So that's the horizontal line, fulfillment and innovation. Now, these are the two ends, and then they are tangoing. In other words, what you want to innovate at times might not, help you to fulfill something that you have to do. We need to make sustainable process engineering. The things that you need to do that, it may come against what you need to innovate. We want to just innovate something. You understand? So we have this there. So they form the vertical axis of a framework which we want to look at. And then the approach, the second one, approach. How is the industry going about it? The intent. We know the intent. Then the approach is how is the industry going about it? And how you do it, it could be formal or it could be informal. I hope you get it. It could be formal or informal. So we let this be the horizontal lines. We have the vertical line, the horizontal line. The informal and formal, they are also at the two ends. Okay? So we have these two approaches. Now, when we put the two together, that is, the horizontal and vertical. So we have fulfillment, innovation, axis. We have the informal and formal axis. Okay. This gives us 4 quadrants. With these 4 quadrants, the first one we have clarifying expectations. That is the formal and fulfillment. Okay, between these, we have clarifying expectations. So here we have things that you need to do to clarify expectations. At times we do not clarify expectations, and before you realize, people now take guns and things and then they are fighting. Oh, there's oil. Oh, there's bauxite. It can give us that. We don't clarify the expectations, and then people think that once we have it, we are going to get money. They start fighting and all of that. Then the other quadrant is for the clarifying expectations, some of the things that you do, you codify. you assign, okay, you train. So we do all of these things, and it will help the people to really understand the things that they need to do. And then they will do it, and it happens. So it's in the industry, so it's there. So it's not like the policy is there, and then we say we have nice policies, and they are not working. We have embedded this in there. Yeah, so those quadrants, that is what I've just brought here, so we'll just skip them. Now, the other thing is transformational change. Okay. If you want to embed something, we also need transformational change. And then I love this definition. We have several, but this definition is so nice. Transformational change, say a structural change that alters the interplay of institutional, cultural, technological, economic, and ecological dimensions of a given system and unlocks new development paths, including social practices and worldviews. So this is transformational change. So we need transformational change in our industry. We need it to make sure that we create the jobs and then have increased revenues. Now, what is the linkage between this transformational change and the Cogent Process Engineering? The concept of the transformational change is generally used in connotation with the goal of Cogent Process Engineering. Now, the Cogent Process Engineering is a normative concept, and that defines the direction and the goal of development, while the transformational change is a descriptive concept defining the process and path of change. So with these two, the Cogent Process Engineering in the extractive industry is the goal we want to achieve. So in the extractive industry, we want to achieve Cogent Process Engineering. Now, the transformational change is the process that takes us there. Okay, so the CPE, that is the goal. The transformational change is the process that will lead us there. So if we are playing football and then we have to score a goal, the ball, when we start, is in the middle. Somebody will have to dribble through and then go and put it in the net. And that becomes the process to the goal. And that is very, very important for us if we want to achieve sustainability in our various industries. In conclusion, policies that promote innovation and human capital development can increase productivity and competitiveness in the economy. And also integration of Ghanaian extractives market may enhance the developmental potential for SMEs and job and revenue growth. And then studies that identify subsectors with high potential for added value will facilitate Cogent Process Engineering tools. And these are some recommendations that we can take along. One, cost-benefit analysis of Cogent Process Engineering to ascertain whether benefits outweigh costs. We need to do that. And then Cogent Process Engineering should be guided by a long-term development strategy and identify critical gaps in the economy to be filled. And in sectors where local capacity is identified as inadequate, focus Cogent Process Engineering efforts on attaining higher levels, employment, and training. Now, I always say that the difference between what we do and what we can do is sufficient to solve our problems. In other words, what we have to do to solve our problem is in our own hands. Thank you very much for your attention.